Um, Welcome to 716 Sports Blizzard, and today my guest is John Fina.
Good to be
Um,
here, Robby.
so what do you think of the Bills versus the Ravens?
It is definitely going to be an exciting game. Uh, the Ravens are very dynamic, very talented football team with one of the top five quarterbacks in the NFL and with one of the top five running backs in the NFL. I think the Bills really have to be perfect on defense. We got to stop Derrick Henry. We got to keep Lamar Jackson from getting loose and running down the field a lot. I like that we're having this game in Buffalo, Robby. I like our weather. I like our Bills Mafia. So that excites me about this opportunity, right, to go against them. So I'm going to be in town. I'm going to come check out the game, and I'm just thrilled. How about you?
I think if the Bills can just like stop Derrick Henry and like keep Lamar off the field, I think the Bills have a good chance to win the game this weekend.
I like your point about keeping their offense off the field. So we ran the ball a lot against Denver, and we ran it very effectively, and we chewed up 41 minutes of the game clock to their 18. So if we can replicate some of that, I think you're right. I think if we can keep them off the field, and then when they get on the field, maybe they're a little frustrated and they make decisions that result in big mistakes that the Bills can take advantage of.
Do you like do you do you think our defense can stop the run?
Right. Well, I think a lot of that depends on, and I don't study the Baltimore Ravens offense. So I don't see that they have the same variety of running attack that we generally employ. They do a couple of really interesting things. So if we get into a position where we can dial in our game plan defensively to stop the run, and we have really good gap integrity, and we're able to beat a block here and there, I think that gives us a really strong chance for success. And the short answer to your question is, can we stop the run? And I think that we can. I think we've stopped the run uh, during the season quite a bit. I don't think the numbers always look like we stop the other team's running game. But I think what our success rate happens is teams will run it on us between the 25s, and then we get really stingy in that red zone area. And I think that'll be extremely important. I'd like to see a couple tackles for a loss, but it is hard to bring down the big guy, Derrick Henry.
Um do you, do you think if the Bills win this game and end up playing Kansas City in Kansas City, do you think the Bills will have enough left in the tank to win that game?
Yeah, I do. And here's the reason why. Uh, when you're in playoff football, and you're a team like the Bills, who everybody picked to be second or at least third in the division, and you have banded together and put a great product out on the field, and you've evolved throughout the season, that when it comes to this time of year and how close the Bills have been over the past 5 years, you are able to really generate a lot of adrenaline, testosterone, this feeling of everybody's against us, or nobody thought we could. And you're able to really, build yourself up mentally doing that. And as well as just the general understanding that you're a good football team. And every team that you've lost to, aside from the Patriots, has made it into the playoffs. So I do think that they can take care of Kansas City after they take care of the Ravens. Now, Houston could be a threat to Kansas City. Kansas City hasn't had a season where they've destroyed opponents. They've gotten by on some very quirky situations with some very strange calls. So I don't rule out Houston entirely to beat the or to beat the Chiefs. What do you think?
Like the Chiefs have won like ugly games, and I think the Bills could beat them or Houston.
Okay, yeah. Look, at this stage of the season, everybody has, during the season done this. Now the Chiefs, and that's a wave, right? Up and down. The Chiefs don't reflect it in their record, but if you watch the game, you definitely see that they've had some challenges, some ebb and flow. They win ugly. Thank you, Chris. That doesn't mean though that a team like Houston, who beat Buffalo in Houston, uh, and maybe has a few more losses, isn't still improving, isn't still evolving with their game planning, with their offensive philosophy, their run game, their passing game. So that's why I think, do the Chiefs have the advantage? Yes, of course they do. They have the experience, they have the home field advantage, they have Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey, and their defense, their secondary plays just unbelievably well, right? And they got a game wrecker up front. So I mean, if I were to say, I would say the Chiefs are 7 out of 10 times they win this game.
Um, if well, like the Bills play the Ravens, and I think the Bills could beat them, and I think Greg Rousseau or James Cook could be like the two guys that come out on top.
Oh, you mean as in superstars in the game that really create some production? Yeah, I would agree with you on James Cook. I think the one that scares me is not scares me, but we don't play with our defensive ends in real attack mode, freedom mode. But at some point, you want these guys, Rousseau, Epinesa, Von Miller, Smoot, um, to get free in a circumstance in the game that's super important, right? We want to have a game breaking drive. We want to have a sack early in the game that creates doubt, that keeps the crowd riled up. And we haven't seen a lot of that. We want to see that type of production from the defensive front.
Um, is there any status on Ray Davis since he's in the concussion protocol?
So I haven't heard anything yet, and I think they'll keep that quiet. It does bring up the question, do you go back to a little bit of what you did with Curtis Samuel and have him in the backfield, or do you elevate Frank Gore Jr. from the practice squad and make him available? What do you think, sir?
I like the play where they had Curtis Samuel in the backfield, and then Josh Allen like threw it to him and he scored that touchdown.
No, I think you're wise about that. There are many ways that the Bills have shown they can attack defenses that are new, almost new every week. And that creates a big problem for defensive coordinators because it's not that we're doing a great variety of things just to do them, but we're doing them schematically very well, and the success has been very good.
Um, do you think the Bills defense will have a spy um on Lamar Jackson?
Boy, that's a good question. You know, when you do that, you really have to be solid in your secondary coverage because you in some ways you give up a coverage player just to keep their eyes on Lamar Jackson. Well, is it worth it? Yes. Is it always worth it? Maybe not. So I think they'll do it, but in limited types of situations, right? We'll probably do it in third and long. We'll have Matt Milano or Dorian Williams dropping back into the curl, but mostly with their eyes on Lamar. But you can't afford to do that every play. And you also can't afford to do something like that without bringing some type of pressure. Because if you're going to dedicate somebody to spy and chase Lamar, then you want him to move. You want him to run, and somebody has got to force him to get off his spot 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage and start to move with his legs.
Um, what is your opinion on the Ravens from last week against the Steelers?
Well, they looked really good, but what really starts to pop out is the Steelers also looked really bad. So it's difficult for me to put a lot of significance to that game because I thought the Steelers they just seemed to be asleep at the wheel. They didn't appear to be motivated. I couldn't make hide nor hair of either their defense or offensive game plan. And I don't, Russell Wilson is not Josh Allen. So I don't think that there was a significant enough threat that would have prevented Baltimore from taking more chances against the Steelers.
Um, what are your thoughts on the special teams?
Well, number one, I like to say what Marv Levy said. I don't call them special teams. I call it the kicking game, right? You got offense, defense, kicking game. Because invariably, special teams will break your heart and they become especially bad and they're not always specially good. So as a player, I can remember so many times where we'd have a beautiful kickoff return that got us out to the 42-yard line and a holding penalty brought it back. So for me, I would just prefer special teams disappear almost for both teams. You can make your field goals. We can kick all of our touchbacks. Just don't do anything that hurts us. I just don't want to be hurt by the kicking game. I want it to back up what we do defensively and offensively.
Um, what are your thoughts on the other games this weekend?
Right. Well, I think Kansas City wins. Like I said, they would win 7 out of 10 times. It's a big challenge, but I think Kansas City pulls it out. Washington at Detroit. I really love Jaden Daniels, the type of game that he plays. It would be hard for me to say that Washington comes away with this one. I think Detroit just has this real strong feeling of destiny. They're a great football team. If they're healthy, if they get off to a good start, I don't think Washington can beat them, even though Washington has some really terrific football players. And then Philly and the Rams, right? I think the Rams have to go to Philadelphia. This one could be the upset. I really feel Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Williams, and the Rams defense, which tends to show up in very opportune moments. I think the Rams have a really great chance of pulling that one out. I'm going to go with the Rams.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with you and go with the Rams to win that game.
All right. And what's your take on Washington at Detroit?
I think I think Washington has a good team, like with the rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels and some of their other wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. So who's going to win it?
I think
Detroit?
I think Washington wins it.
Oh, you're going with the upset. Okay. All right. Robby with the upset. All right. And then the last game, Houston. I'm assuming you're going to pick the Bills to beat the Ravens. So Houston
Yeah.
at Kansas City. What do you think?
Um I think I think Houston wins, but knowing that like Kansas City, I think Kansas City could pull out the win, but I want to go Houston, so in that way the Texans have to come here and we host the AFC Championship game.
Right. That would be great, wouldn't it? That would be something.
Yeah, that would be
And
like
I would love to have another chance with Houston, right? Because I was at that game in Texas and it was not fantastic. And it really wasn't a great representation of the Bills as they are now. I just thought that it was we were flat. We didn't execute very well. Um, and I think it'd be nice to have another crack at them. And of course, you want to host that AFC Championship game at home in Buffalo. It gets chilly in Houston, but it doesn't get quite as chilly as it does in Buffalo.
um the the Bills haven't won a road playoff game since '92, the AFC title game at Miami. Were were you on that team when they had that?
I was there. Yeah, 1992, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yep. That was an amazing game. Incredible. And it's hard to win on the road and it's hard to play in Miami too because the weather there is pretty tough.
Um what um do you remember most about being on the Bills?
Oh, that's a great question, Robby. My family is from Rochester, New York, which, as you know, is really close to Buffalo. And my parents moved out to Arizona when I in the early, well, shoot, 1969. So we didn't get to see family a lot when I was growing up. And when the Bills drafted me, it was just such an amazing opportunity for all of my family to be together. So, I mean, that was number one, just that it brought my family super close together. And number two was um, it was it was a real privilege to play this game at the level of the NFL. And generally, I would say I loved all of my teammates. Sometimes I didn't, but most of the time I did. And it's a real true brotherhood. And in a strange kind of way, back in the 90s, this type of game that has so few players, active football players, it's kind of a almost like a career of loneliness, right? No one really can relate to this type of stress and pressure that this game really pushes on you. And then it extracts so much from you too, so much emotion, so much physical output, so much mental output. So I just remember that my time in Buffalo was, an incredible time, good, bad, and in the middle, every part of it. I really love being a Buffalo Bill. And I say this all the time. I love the city of Buffalo. I just think it's a fantastic city, not without its problems, of course, but a beautiful historic city that I love to visit.
Um, what was your most memorable game as a Buffalo Bill?
For me, it was the AFC Championship game in 1990, season of '93, played in '94, where we beat the Kansas City Chiefs. It was really an amazing game, and I picked that one because, of course, I was a player, and that got us to the Super Bowl. But secondly, I was on the team, but I didn't play a lot in the best comeback in NFL playoff history. So that was an incredible experience, also.
What are your thoughts on the current coach, McDermott?
I like Sean McDermott. I think I understand the veracity of the Bills Mafia and the Bills fandom that they want to continue. They want to get to that Super Bowl level. They just feel like without it, we're just another team. But you've seen, winning a football game is super hard, and stringing together a season and keeping your guys healthy enough to go week in and week out is a true challenge. And so many factors come to play in a game. The ball's not round, it bounces all over the place, and there's good luck and there's bad luck. But by and large, after 17 years of drought, not going to the playoffs, and then Sean McDermott coming here and not just putting together a team year over year, but strategically with Brandon Beane putting a product on the field that we out of the playoffs every year in the first round, in the wild card round. But I do like Sean McDermott. I think he's a great leader, and I think he's the right guy for Buffalo.
Um, are there any similarities between McDermott and Marv Levy?
I think the similarities are in that they are both very straightforward. They're brief. They don't walk around questions. They don't skirt the issue. Sean is certainly more animated and lively, though Marv did have his moments. But I do appreciate that. I get the feeling from them that they both treat the players like men, like family men, like sons and daughters, aunts and uncles, brothers, and think not aunts, of course, but that he treats them with a great deal of respect, and he requires respect in return. And to me, that's quite enough. That your players can be in an environment where they feel as if they're being treated properly.
Um, what are your thoughts on the legend of the game, Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Well, he's fun, isn't he? I mean, he brings such a great personality to everything he does around the NFL right now. So I enjoy him. He's definitely gonna. I'm really excited to see what he does when he's legend of the game. I mean, that guy could show up in a Sasquatch costume or go out there in his underwear. You just don't know. He could shave his beard. He could wear a top hat or who knows what. So I am a little bit excited about that. And being the legend of the game is a genuine thrill. I got to do it this year, and it's quite a bit of fun.
Yeah, when he played here, it was him and Stevie Johnson. I think those two really had like something going during the drought years.
Yeah, no, they did. And Stevie's a really good guy. I've met him, and I think they continue to maintain a good relationship. And Fitz was fun to watch. It wasn't quite the time for the Buffalo Bills, but now we get to have the time, right? With Josh Allen and all the great players that surround him.
What what are your thoughts on the new stadium?
Well, I know a lot of people wanted a dome, Robbie, and for me, I think it was a pretty good compromise. You cover up the fans. I think that could retain some of the heat fairly well. You got some new technology in the field, keep it on grass. And what's funny is I was in Buffalo for 10 years and I never walked around underneath the stadium. And I was back there for the first time several years ago, and I went out to the concourse, and I thought to myself, "Wow, this is really not great. This is not a great fan experience." And the prices went up, and they continue to go up, and they'll go up again for the new stadium. But I think the fan experience will be better, and that's an important thing. You know, a lot of people might say it's not that big of a deal, but you deserve clean bathrooms and more opportunities to get food to eat and a beer in a more updated facility. So I'm excited for it.
Um, any chance you would go into coaching?
I don't see that happening, Robbie. I'm 55 now. I'll be 56 in March, and I might have aged out of coaching. I did coach in high school quite a bit. I coached both my sons for 4 years, so 8 years total, and it's a rough job. So I just don't think I'll do it.
Um, any good like Thurman or Andre Reed stories that you've
Yeah, I'll tell you a good Thurman Thomas story. So I love Thurman, and to this day, he was always a great teammate and a great competitor, but he was also very tough on you. So if you weren't playing well or something like that, he would get in your face. And I remember in one particular game, I missed a block or something, and he got right in my face, and he gave me hell for it, and I deserved it. And I didn't get angry about it. But then later on in the game, he made a mistake, and he came over to me and he said, "Okay, you can give it back to me now. I screwed up. You can yell at me." And I was like, that's pretty cool, right? He's a guy that knows that we have to play at a very high level, and everybody's expectation was there. And he's not a guy that would say, "Oh, well, I'm allowed to make a mistake," or "Your mistakes are worse than mine." And he owned it. And I just, to this day, I'll always remember that about Thurman. He was a great teammate, a great leader, and he expected a lot from himself and everybody that was around him.
was was Andre Reed like the first guy to wear number 83, or was there other guys before that?
Oh, I wouldn't know. Andre was here when I got there, or Andre was in Buffalo when I got there. Um, and after a while, you kind of forget the numbers because you know the guys. So I'm not sure. I'm sure there was an 83 before Andre. You might have to go back into the 70s or maybe even the 60s to find him.
Um, do you, Do you have an X factor for the game on Sunday?
Well, I think the X factor is the run game on both sides of the ball. So the team that consistently establishes the run is going to win the football game. So we have to stop their run and we have to get some very good run yardage.
Was there any story with your number?
Well, before I got there, a very important Buffalo Bill wore my number. His name was Joe Devlin. And it's funny because people say that I even looked like him, which I thought was kind of a funny coincidence. But in college, I ended up with the number 70 in a very strange way. I used to play defense and I wore the number 98. And I went away on spring break. And when I came back to go to spring football, I couldn't find my locker. I went to number 98 and my stuff wasn't in there. So I walked around the locker room and I found my clothes and shoes and everything in a locker. And I look up and it's number 70. And I said, "What's going on?" And I went and talked to the equipment guys and they said, "Oh, well, they moved you to offense. You're wearing number 70 now." And I thought, well, okay, it's as good a number as any. I didn't choose it. It chose me, or it was chosen for me. And, I was proud to wear it. And I don't know, it becomes a little bit part of your identity, I suppose.
Is the player still in you when you watch the Bills play?
Very much. Yeah, I get very stressed out when I watch a game. I watch it very technically. I watch the offensive line very close. So I get so emotionally drained and even physically drained. And by the end of the game, I'd like to take a nap. So sometimes I say it's more draining being an educated former player fan to watch your team play in as great detail as I do. But it's tough on any fan, any dedicated fan of their team. It was great being with you here, Robby. Thanks for having me.
Um, do you have a score prediction before we wrap up the show?
Yeah, I'll give you a score prediction. I'm going to say the Buffalo Bills 34 and the Baltimore Ravens 31.
Um, I'm gonna go 35 to I'm gonna say 35-30 Bills.
Okay. I hope we're both right and that the Bills win and get that W and move on and win the AFC Championship game and then get to the Super Bowl and win that. Thanks for having me, Robby.
Yeah, thanks for joining me and um hopefully um to bring you back on the show in the future.
I look forward to it. Thank you.